Sorry about that. And I can't even see. It's not showing up on my computer, so I got to do it from over here. And I'm trying to figure out how to get to. Yeah, I need glasses because I can't read any of that. Just this one? This one? All right. I can't read any of that stuff. So I need glasses, I think. Yeah. Is there a way to have it on the screen? Or if it's too much?
I'm trying to figure out. Excuse me.
Yep. All right, so what I do, density market, we opened up last year, and we opened up in an area that has been underdeveloped through the process of redlining. So I wanted to look at kind of like our history, trajectory, and then look at if you have a co-op, how you can use health equity as a lens to pull in resources to help build your co-op. So we started out, I'll give you a little bit of background. We actually started out of John Crawford III, who was shot at the Walmart in 0.2 seconds. And the community came together to organize around that. And then about a year later, these maps came out that measured opportunity. Opportunity meaning conditions favorable for the attainment of a goal. And the thing that came out was that Dayton is hyper-segregated, so we have West Dayton, which is 98% black. Then we had East Dayton, which is about 94% white with Latino, Turkish, and African refugees. But because of the hyper-segregation and redlining, all of West Side was basically low and very low in opportunity. It was underdeveloped, right? Which we already knew. It wasn't like new information. But at the time, we had 40,000 residents and no full-service grocery store, right? And so we started pondering, could we open up a grocery store? And so the first thing that we did was we surveyed the community to ask, is this something that the community wanted and needed? 'Cause at the time, we had to take 2 buses to get to the grocery store. You had to take, so it's about a 3-hour journey. You had to take a bus from your house to downtown, then downtown up to Kroger's, and then back downtown and back to your house. So it was about a 3-hour journey. And so, the community said yes, right? So then the next thing that we did was we started gathering folks that were interested in building, and we did something. We centered it black, but we also brought in people from city and one person from county early on because we wanted to have a structure that we knew we could hit everywhere, but grounding it in the black community.
So this is a PDF. You want PowerPoint, I assume?
Yeah, it's not that one. It's the other one. Yeah, this one. Cool. Okay, thanks. I appreciate it. All right. All right. Yeah, sorry about this. All right. Okay. So yeah, our tagline is, we're more than a market, we're a movement. Because basically, we're trying to see how to build movement in Dayton using co-ops as a model. Like I said, co-ops can be a social system as well. Here's a picture of the market when it was completed. So here's the redlining maps. So you can see the disparity, west side versus east side, and then how that translated into opportunity, right? That the area that was redlined is now low and very low opportunity. And that's going to be the true anywhere you go in the United States, right? Because when we're looking at redlining and the concentrated advantage and concentrated disadvantage that is created by that, like that web is going to be everywhere. That's why I feel that like the redlining maps are the key if you're opening up black co-ops to use as a way to leverage resources. And here you can see that like 85% of those that lived in the high and very high areas, 85% were white, down to the low and very low was 77% black. And you see how it steps down? When you see that, you know that it's structure, because if it was all like loosey-goosey, then it would just be happenstance, right? But when you see that gradation like that, you know that it's a structural cause. And then here, life expectancy differences, 69 in the low to 75 at the high. The health insurance, right? Why do you think that like everything else follows that pattern, but looking at heart disease, cancer, but what about opportunity and health insurance? Why, does anybody know why this gap, how it goes up, why it goes up in the middle? Okay, sorry.
Some people get like Medicare, and then the people in the middle don't qualify for either.
Right. It's the cliff, right? So like when you hit the cliff, you know what I mean, you don't get a chance to, you don't make enough to get insurance, but you don't get the assistance anymore. And so like that's kind of the trap to keep people from, you know, I've seen people not take jobs or not take even promotions because like, you know what, like I can't, you're gonna put me in this middle space, you know what I mean? So if I can't make that full leap, you know what I mean? And so that's a way I think to try to create a permanent underclass, right? Is what they're trying to do. Okay, so we use all this data to start making a health case. And why that was important, because we were able to get the two main healthcare systems, they both contributed to our project. Our first one gave $400,000. The next one came and gave $200,000. Let's see. All right, so here's Kenya Baker. She was supposed to make it, but she wasn't able to make it. So one of the keys was we build the right coalition. So we came together, we studied best practices. We started coming to FCI, right? Once we realized that like we wanted to use the co-op as a model, and we used Co-op Sensi, which the folks from here from Co-op Sensi, they helped give us some early information. One of the keys for us was that we were able to get a full-time staff person, right? So like the project is a $7 million project altogether. And at first we struggled to keep momentum, but we were able to get, one of our members was able to get a fellowship, and that's able to have a full-time worker. And like that was the key to being able to have someone that's thinking about it day and night, because like it's hard if it's all volunteer to be able to really like walk this thing out, and you know, having the meetings and this, that, and the other. And so we looked for, here's Leela in the corner standing up. She's one of our co-founders. One of the first things that we was trying to find the right location, you know, and we struggled with this because the area that was food apartheid. So let me back it up. One of the things that we did that I thought was key is that we changed the language, because at the time everybody was saying food desert, right? And so we changed it to food apartheid so that we could acknowledge human agency, right? That like this was man-made and we can unmake it, right? So that was a way to build hope, right? Because hope is knowing that we had the ability to change our lived environment. So once we switched the language, then we were start people able to see that like, yo, like this was created against us. It was someone's imagination against us. So how are we going to reimagine this space for ourselves? And so, but the area was wide, right? And so at first we thought it was going to be like, oh, you know, there were the Krogers that had pulled out, and we were like, oh, you know, we're going to just go into this Kroger's building and we'll be done in like 3 months, you know, and then we found out, well, the Krogers actually, the area around the Krogers didn't have the capacity, right? Like the density wasn't there in the community to be able to support it. So then we had to start looking around, and we found an area that wasn't it wasn't deep inside of the food apartheid area, but it was in an area where we had enough it was in the food desert and also had enough capacity to be able to do it so that we could build one and have a strong anchor, and then we can create satellites going out. So right now we're helping another project. We're helping 2 food projects that are further west. Yeah, we already talked about that. Yeah, so you can see the stars where we're located. There was another store. It's not really a full service store. Then there was People's Market. And then the Kroger's was way up there. All right. So we like a lot of times you think of co-ops, you think about like organics, right, and like stuff like that. We didn't go that route because we wanted to meet the community where the community was at. So we're 80% conventional, 20% organic. And we're figuring out our mix, right? So like right now, we're doing a restocking like last week. We redid the whole layout of the store, and we're trying to figure out how to meet the needs of really 3. So we have like a 3-tier system, right? So we have basic staples that the community wants. We call them gym essentials, and those are priced as low as possible, right? Then we have some products like wine and some other things that have a higher margin to kind of subsidize the low price, and then but still keep us able to sustain ourselves. Let's see, that's my baby. So we ended up with a 15,000 foot grocery store. So we also have a teaching kitchen, a health clinic, and a community room, right? And we didn't start off that way. So like we say one of our superpowers is our ability to create collaboration. You know, it's like people will come and you know, we will say, hey, what if we do this and what if we do that? And the clinic is one because you know, while we were in the process of designing the market, the black hospital closed. You know, and it was like, damn, what are we going to do now? You know what I mean? And so this isn't a hospital, you know what I mean? But like, we wanted to have some kind of healthcare in it. So that's where Tribe, our doula cooperative, works out of. We do like basic healthcare stuff there. And we're still kind of building out that program. In our teaching kitchen, we run classes in there. We just made a partnership with a local organization that trains cooks. So like they're going to be in the facility, I think like 20 hours a week, something like that, in the mornings. So that way we can build capacity. Because one thing that we ran into right now is that we've been having a hard time finding deli staff, right? And so now we got a program where basically they're going to be coming up in there, and then, you know, we'll probably get some that end up staying and working in the market. Some are going to go other places, but we're building local capacity and also meeting needs of the community. So we're worker-owned and community-owned. So there's 9 seats on our board. 5 of them are workers, which they're not there yet. So when we started, we didn't have any workers, and so we had community members that sat in worker seats. Our 1-year anniversary is in May, and then at that time, we're gonna stagger them. So we're gonna do 2 this year that will hop on to the board, and then next year, 3 more are gonna hop on, and then it'll be 5 workers, 3 from the community, and we wanted to make sure that we geocoded 2 of them, so that we made sure that so the concern is how do you build development and not have gentrification, right? And so we wanted to geocode 2 seats so that 2 of the members have to be from the trade area, and then there's 1 at-large seat. And then there's 1 seat, which is the co-op Dayton seat, since we're the keepers of the vision, basically. One of the things that's interesting is, so one of the keys that I'm seeing is how, does anybody else here like have co-ops that you're running? Okay, so like one of the keys that I'm starting to see is that like the worker owners are actually frontline organizers, right? Like at first we didn't, they knew about co-ops, but now I'm starting to see that like, they're the ones that can like, the more that they understand, they can be teaching the community, right? Because the whole thing is like how is the co-op a catalyst for a community, right? How are we building deeper relationships, right? The things that we need to move a community forward. How does the market serve as a vehicle for that? And so the workers are key, like having them, you want a leaderful organization, right? So we're working right now on the great game of business. Anybody familiar with that? Okay, so the great game of business is where it's like open books, right? So, normally in a business, you have top management, they see everything. Workers don't got a clue about the numbers. They just, go here, go there, right? But we want to have open systems so that if you're the cashier, you know how the dollar moves through the organization. If you're management, you know that in Delhi, when I'm doing this is how it impacts not only my department, but the rest of the store, right? Because we want to build the capacity and the leadership of the entire organization. So everybody, like in the Japanese model, they call it Kaizen, right? Like how everybody can see what's happening in the market.
I've heard it described as open books.
Yeah. I think they call it it's open books is what it is. There's like a program that kind of like teach it, and they call it the Great Game of Business. It's probably some kind of trademark that, but yeah, it's open books. Yeah. Oh, you know what? Okay, good. So here's some of the, that's an old slide. So one of the keys for me has been participation, right? So every stage of the process, we walk with the community, right? Because you don't want to do something for the community, you want to do something with the community. And to do that, like to me, it's like how do we transform recipients into co-creators, right? Because we're used to this kind of, we receive things, and especially like something like this, the community's used to like, oh, somebody's building this, and, they want to pat you on the back or high five. And, at first people didn't believe us, Like, yeah, right, you're going to steal the money and all these things, right? And so we had to build community trust, and we had to build community sense of agency, Because again, power is connected to hope, right? And so the more we understand our power, the more hopeful we can become. And so one way to realize our power is being part of the decision-making process, right? So when it came to naming the market, we put out a call to the community. People came back with all these different names, it was Fresh This and all this stuff. And then we put all these names together, and then we put it back out to the community. And then we came back to us. So it was this dialectical thing, right? And then eventually we came to Gem City Market, because we're known as the Gem City. Like Cincinnati's known as the Queen City. We're known as the Gem City. Long history. And so then the next one was our mission statement, right? And so we had 200 people in the room, right, determining our mission statement. And one of the things I remember clearly was the word clean kept coming up, right? Why do you think clean would be so important? Yeah, dirty, brown meat, dirty floors, right? It's like, man, it like really, I don't know the word I want to use. Like when I see some of these conditions of some of these stores that they're expecting us to come and spend our money at and to shop at, and because we don't have limited options, it's like we stuck with it. Like what you gonna do about it, right? And so clean kept coming up, and one of my board members was like, "We're not gonna put clean on this. We don't need clean." I'm like, "No, the community." Like this is important to the community, right? Like kept coming up, clean, clean, clean. So it's in our mission statement about having clean, right? So again, another way for the community to see their voice being enacted, right? Because that's how we expand our we. You know what I mean? Like often, like especially like I appreciate what she said about isolation no more, right? So like, how do we get out of individual into a single garment of destiny, or to Ubuntu, right? That I am because you are, right? And so part of it is like how we're sharing this co-creation process, right? Expanding our we. And so the next one was our architectural design. So we had a basic design. We traveled around for about 4 or 5 months, going to different, we hosted meetings, we invited others to meetings to look at the design, right? And I remember one day, so we had decided we're gonna put a clinic in there, but we hadn't really altered the design fully, so our bathrooms were gonna be in the front originally. And then actually, our bathroom's in the front. And so somebody was like, so you mean to tell me I'm gonna take my urine sample, walk it across this produce aisle to go to the clinic in the back? But oh, we had not thought about that, right? So then we moved the bathroom next to the clinic. So again, it's that collective intelligence, right? How we're building and working together, you know what I mean? Expanding our we. And then we started having, we had different committees that were formed, you know, out of the community, you know, from marketing to designing the store, community engagement, and we did deep listening. And I think this was another one of our keys. I think the real key is participation, right? But after that, it was deep listening. So how many of you have done political organizing, where you go knocking on doors for a political campaign? All right. So how many doors were you supposed to hit an hour? 80. Woo. Good Lord. Right. So that's extreme. But oh, okay. Well, still, that's a lot. You know what I mean? But I was like, ooh, ow, good Lord. I'm like, damn. Okay, so, but still, right, the emphasis is on the number, right? How quickly I can, you know, hit somebody, you know, because remember before we talked about that transactional, right? But transactional does not build power, right? Power is built by building deep relationships, deep connections, right? That can withstand adversity, you have the trust to be able to be agile and to make decisions on the fly because you trust, you know, because move at the speed of trust, right? So we did deep listening. So it was like, you know what? We created this little booklet, and it was like, so we trained people, and it was like, if you go and you only hit one door an hour, that's a win. Because like if you had this deep conversation with somebody, that was so much more important, right? Because we wanted to build our base. We wanted to understand not only, you know, it wasn't just talking about food, it was talking about your experience and like what's going on in the community, right? Because, what do you think?
I'm saying the resources come out of that.
Exactly. And we can start connecting, you know what I mean? So it's like, oh, so you're having issues with housing, let's talk. Have you talked to so-and-so, right? You know what I mean? So it's kind of this way that we're building our collective intelligence and connecting community members. And at the same time, we started raising up, we called it like indigenous leadership, right? So like, who are the leaders in the community that people go to when they have an issue? You know, oh, when I have a question, I go see so-and-so, you know what I mean? And like, not the formal leadership, but who the real people go to, right? And start building a relationship with them and see how we can support them, right? So yeah, I think that was another one of our keys. Popular education, huge, you know what I mean? And we're still developing it, right? How to be in this conversation, how to grow and learn together. We didn't have a building for a long time, so we ended up having to tear down the old building because it wasn't ADA accessible, and then we had to do a build from that. So we didn't have a building for a while. So we had to find ways to build culture, right, to sustain the movement while we're in the process of building the physical building. So we did children's cook-offs, you know what I mean? Like we did like 2 at Children's Hospital, we did 1 somewhere else where kids would come together, they would learn how to make things, they would have a contest. We did cornhole. You know, we had a cornhole team, you know what I mean, that would like go to cornhole tournaments. You know, we're from Ohio, right? So we would have cornhole tournaments, right? We had, there's a brewery that's a co-op. And actually, that's the only co-op in Dayton before we started doing stuff. And so they would have trivia nights, you know what I mean? So we would have our trivia team there. It was always a way of building this sense of community, you know what I mean? Yeah, that's about it. Okay, so here was this is another picture of our groundbreaking. This is our opening. We opened up last May. Our 1-year anniversary is coming up soon, so we planning for that. And then here's just some pictures. Clean, yes. Yeah, and we put the produce in front. So the interesting thing was, so for those that know me, I got two loves, I guess. First is mangoes, second is popcorn, right? And so, you know, the first day when I had the first mango, I was like, damn, this is deep. Like I don't think a mango has ever been sold in this community, because there was a market there years ago, like 20, 30 years ago. But then we didn't have the supply chain to be able to get mangoes like that. So my guess is never. And like something that like I hadn't really thought of. And it was like, man, like all these things. So like opening day and seeing, you know, elders like with their carts and they're taking food, and like it was just beautiful to see that the community, you know what I mean, like being able to utilize the market to meet a need. Like I don't know how to explain it, but you see people just walking with their bags or elders pushing a cart, and you know, so yeah. So this is Michelle. She's our she's a manager, like a floor manager. That was our sale. I think that was like last week or 2 weeks ago. This is Allison. So we're actually opening up. We got this little room that we're going to make into a little like cafe. They're starting. Actually, they started this week, so it's probably about 2 weeks till they're done. Here's another picture of the floor. There's Ja. You know what? Oh, sorry. You got a question?
What does it look like to freeze them up? That's those supply chains, or like the fresh produce, or the items that might not be what are typically sold.
Okay. What was the first part? I couldn't hear the first part.
How long did it take you?
How long?
Like how did you go about?
Or how do we go about doing it? So part of it was our supplier. So right now we're with AWG. I'm not sure if we're going to stay at AWG as a with a is it associated in wholesale grocers? Is that what it is for? Yeah. So we have AWG right now, and so right now, especially after the conversation that Dr. Jazz helped host about a month ago, like we're trying to figure out how to get more black farmers. I forgot to mention one thing that we did is two things. So we made a black space, right? Everybody's welcome, right? But you know, oftentimes black folk have to walk into spaces that might not say white on the wall, but you don't feel like you belong, right? And so let me pull it back. So that's an Adinka symbol for cooperation. And so we had a local resident from Nigeria. She designed some of the symbols. So on the outside of the market, we got Adinka symbols. On the inside, as a way to like mark space, right? You know, we played Motown music when you walk into the store. And I'm bringing that up because we have three types of local. So, you know, West Side is 98% African American, right? So if any West Side producers have anything in the market, we tag it West Side, right? And so people know that like this is a black dollar, right? We got Rachel Seasoning, we got one produce person, and we have various products, right? And then we have a regional local, and then we have a statewide local, right? And so people can be intentional, you know what I mean, of like knowing where the dollar's going, so they're supporting local in different ways. And so AWG was part of our process, and then we started building relationships, right? And I think we're still doing it, because we've only been open a year, and so we're still trying to figure out supply chain, and if we can figure out how to bring stuff back down south, that is the move, right? But so the North got to figure out what we're going to bring back down south. Is it like to really create a black economy? You know what I mean? Like that's the biggest thing, because the trucks can't go back empty, and so we got to figure out what the North is going to bring back down. And so yeah, we're continuing to build relationships, so yeah, the supply chain is ongoing. Let's see. Oh, I must. Okay, so another learning that we had about 2 months ago was we had an all staff meeting. This is Ja, and Ja got in the meeting and he's like, "I thought we was a co-op, but this don't feel like a co-op, right?" And I appreciated it so much, right? Because one of the things that I learned was that because I had been along the whole way, I didn't realize like the stuff that I knew and did that I hadn't passed on in a deep way to like management, right? And so they were operating semi-co-op, but it wasn't really a space where workers were real empowered, right? And so like now it's like, you know, how are we putting workers in positions to make decisions and to really be a co-op, right? So I appreciated, and some of y'all, he's coming to up and coming, so some of me there. But the key is the workers. I promise you, it's like their front line and how to build power with them. And that's a new cheese section. This is Allison making cookies. This is, she was a key volunteer, and now she is a board member. Yeah, and she's kind of like a mother of the market. You know, she might be in there bagging one day, or you know what I mean. Her little, I guess it'd be like nephew. He comes in sometimes, Corinne. So yeah. Any thoughts, questions?
So that's where we are now. So we working with NDC, and that's Neighborhood Design Center.
Okay.
And drafting the external renderings. So external renderings is just what you kind of want this would look like outside. If you were familiar with that. But that process has just been very interesting because there's so much stuff you can do. And then like narrowing it down to actually what we can do based on what the budget is, type of deal. And then sometimes it's just so people can see what we can actually have. So
Yeah.
when you said that they didn't have it, was it a market like 20 or 30 years?
Yeah.
Cherry Hill hasn't had one in almost 20 years. So right now, the market that's in the community is Family Dollar. Like that's, and we know that's not the market.
Right, 100%.
So just that process of deciding if we would do a building that's already there, or we build up around like from all the way up. So I thought that was interesting that he was talking about the marketing that you had, intentional marketing practices. What does that actually look like in reference to Genesis? Like, what is that based off the deep conversations that you had, and then you kind of know what the community wants specifically, and then you move from that way in order to market to them? Or is that some actual like practice that you actually use to market to get the community to come?
Yeah, so I think it's probably a praxis of like deep listening, right? And so like it's a community, it's a market that's for the community and by the community. Like what does the community really want to see, you know? And to me, the question is, what is the compelling, right? Like what do we want to see in the store that will compel you to change your shopping habits, right? That'll compel you to, shop somewhere else when you're shopping, before you shop, wherever, right? And so, so that's where I think the movement part comes in. You know what I mean? So, like, the more that the market is situated in movement, then people that want to be, progressive in that way, you know what I mean? They're more compelled to shop there. But it's also knowing what people need. You know what I mean? Like, what are the things like? So one thing we did was we did and we probably need to do it again. Is we asked people to bring your receipts, right? And so so we got all these receipts, and then we looked and see like what are the main things that people are getting, right? And how much they're getting them for, right? As a way to know like what are the essential items that are the main staples that people are looking for, and then we made those as accessible as possible. Mm-hmm.
So you asked them to bring their receipts from other stores? Or?
Yeah. So we started that before we even opened, right? So like we're trying to figure out like what is our product mix, right? Which is it takes a while to figure that out. You know what I mean? So to get an idea, we asked them. We call it a receipt drive. You know what I mean? So bring in your receipts, and then we kind of figured out and we figured out also how far people were driving. You know what I mean? Like, man, kind of, because we didn't know when we first started, we didn't think to ask the zip code they started from. So some of the data wasn't as usable. But after a while, we caught on that we need to find out where they're from, so then we can say they're driving this far to go, and this, you know what I mean? To figure it out.
So did you ask that question on the survey?
So we didn't, for this part, we didn't do a survey.
Okay.
This one was just like, we just put a call out to the community. Hey, the first one we did, we're getting close to open, and it was just like, we're trying to figure out what the community, wants, and so can you bring in your receipts? You know what I mean, basically. So people would, come to community meetings, they would bring them, or, they could send them to our office, or whatever at first. I think he was next, and I'll go over here.
Yeah, it was a small thing, but I caught it when you were talking about the energy when you all first opened, and as we talk about community and culture, I noticed you said y'all play Motown music.
Mm-hmm.
My question was, why did y'all play young music? I mean, you're from Dayton, Ohio, y'all home of the funk.
We the home of the funk, yeah. No, that's real. And that's something that we might do. We gotta find, we gotta find young music that.
Motown is young music?
No, it is a young music, but a lot of young people, they like Motown. but yeah, it's a good question. But I think it's like, how do we, I don't know if we're gonna ever play,
It's enough, Zap brought the truck, we got enough.
yeah, but that's the same generation. I mean, if we're gonna talk about Zap, then we might as well talk about Motown. You know what I mean? But yes. So those that don't know, Dayton is the home of the funk, right? So we have Zap, Heatwave, Lakeside, all of them came. Matter of fact, Zap's studio is about a mile from the market. But I was my mind went blank. We'll say Cardi B. That's not something I'm thinking of though. But I don't know if we could play Cardi B. It could, inside the market because,
Play Ohio players, they'll be in Carter B. Ohio players is good enough.
Yeah. No, I mean I feel you, but I mean, yeah. I hear you.
White stores play a lot of our old black music like that. You want something so.
Yeah. I mean, if there's an old funk station, we could do that, and it might be something to play. Interesting enough, it was Ja that picked our we made him our DJ, and that's what he went with.
Yeah, earlier you mentioned in your presentation that you had 3 tiers.
Yeah.
With regard to the products that you sold, but I only heard 2. You mentioned the first tier was general essentials, and the second tier you said were wines and other products that had a little bit more of a higher margin, but what's the third? I didn't get the third.
So the third was kind of I I guess the true 3-tier would be either right now it's generic, and we're moving to have more non-generic. Like we're doing a restocking right now, but it'll be like a generic brand, like a mid-level brand, and then like a higher end like brand that you would see at Whole Foods, right? And so those would be the three tiers. And some products have higher markup than others. But that's why I mentioned wine. Or one thing that came out right now a lot is we started building our bakery more. So it's interestingly, so this is one thing that worked against us, right? So we wanted a bakery, like the board, and the community was like, oh, we don't want a bakery. We're like, okay, so we didn't put a bakery in. Guess what they started saying on day one? Where's the bakery? We're like, well, damn, y'all saying you didn't want a bakery. We wanted the bakery. You know what I mean? So that one did bite us, right? So now we ramped up our bakery the last couple months, and 2 weeks ago, so we started about a month ago, I say, and we made a limited amount of brownies, and they sold out. 2 weeks ago, we did 400. Like the first week, I think we did they made 8 or 10. Like they did kind of put it out there to see what would happen, right? We did 400 and sold out. Like bakery is huge, you know what I mean? And so, and there's a high margin in bakery too, right? So yeah.
Yeah, so you mentioned that you had, at some point, an employee that was a fellowship or something. What did you call that position, and what was in their position description?
Fellowship. Oh, the community organizer?
The first staff member.
Oh, the first staff member. Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay. So, I don't know if they had a title. So, I mean, what ended up happening was they got a fellowship that would give them 2 years' salary to work on the project. And so maybe they're a project manager, you know what I mean? But we used that to have someone to run the day-by-day. So I do a lot of consulting around the country, like helping co-ops, and the biggest gap I see is that when there isn't an organizer, it gets stalled. And you need somebody that can that they're waking up in the morning, and sometimes it's hard to get that grant money, but that's why I say making that health case, right? To be able to pull in grant dollars to be able to hire a full-time staff person, like a developer that can help develop the vision and pull people together and hold that space. That's why I see it as the biggest
So it's
change.
more of an organizer, not someone who's making the connections to get your supply chain in place, not someone who's figuring out how to train a floor manager and how to recruit staff.
No. Oh, yeah. Good question. Yeah. Okay, so originally, the person, her name was Leela, she started from, we had some cool ideas to let's start connecting people. So a lot of what she worked on was the fundraising, because it was a $7 million. We didn't think it was going to be $7 million when we started, you know what I mean? But, Trump kind of helped with that. But, so they were helping with philanthropy, making connections, and kind of keeping the ball rolling. So we hired the general manager. We hired Colluminate. So we did our first search, and we couldn't finding a black general manager is a whole next conversation, but it's very hard to do. So we failed our first search. So we hired Colluminate, which is a consulting group, and they did project management as far as the construction itself, and they helped train our next general manager when we hired them, and then the general manager is the one that trains the floor staff and does all of that. But after a while, we were able to raise some money that we hired a full-time organizer as well. And so I was probably So I helped with the organizer and the organizing, but I teach, and so it was like I couldn't do it full time, so we hired someone that was first part time, and then we were able to move them to full time, and then I kind of like helped push things in their direction, and they would like help hold it. But having at least one person, I think, is the most critical thing that I've seen. Like when I see different processes across the country, that's like the biggest breakthrough.
As far as your business designation now, I know you all started this as a 501c3. Is the grocery store itself still a nonprofit?
No. Okay, so the grocery store was never a nonprofit. In Ohio, co-ops can't be 501c3s. And so, like, when we started out, we did not envision creating an incubator, right? But it was like, okay, we realized that before we could raise money, we need to create an entity to gather funds to pass it through to the market. So that's why we created Co-op Dating, which is now the co-op incubator that's doing like the Majagan, right? But at the time, that wasn't our goal. And so the ginseng market is a for-profit. But the thing you just reminded me of, which I think was also our big lesson, is that I see some co-ops, and you know, I'm not saying this can't work, right? I'm just sharing my own experience. That you know, they come together with some people on Monday, and they're like, let's do a co-op, and then by like 1 week later, they're selling shares, right? I think that strategy that did not work, like we didn't do that strategy. The reason why is that like we wanted to come to the community once we had like a business pro forma, like we went out to the community and we was like, do you want a market? And once they said yes, we literally went underground for about 1.5 years, almost 2 years, and started talking to FCI, and started cause you know, how much grocery store experience did we have when we first started? None, other than shopping, right? And so like, we had to learn the business, right? And so we didn't walk with the community during that time, because sometimes like, I think like when you're selling shares where you're still putting all the pieces together, it can seem like it might not happen, you know? And so we kind of like, so the community kind of said we want to do this thing, and then we went and like figured out how to do it, at least the basics of it, then we put it back out to the community, and then we started selling shares. So like, so at that point, like there was like this expectation of like, oh, you got a business plan and this, that, and other, and I think that helped us, because like our membership, like we got 5,000 members now, and like I want to say we had 800 members the first year, you know, and I think it was because we didn't try to do one at a time early on. And our shares are $100 lifetime membership. If you are any kind of subsidy, it's $10. You don't got to prove it, right? Like if you say you're on some kind of assistance, it's good enough for us. Your share was $10, and we ended up we were able to raise philanthropy dollars to cover it in 2 ways. We had a Catholic missionary group that gave us $100,000 to cover those shares, and then also the health systems. They ended up doing a 50-50 match inside the trade area, but that was for everybody. But if you lived inside a trade area, your share was, you know, it was cut in half. But we didn't go $5, it was $10. And the reason why we did $10 is because we wanted everybody to have like a stake in it. You know, we want to make it accessible, and you know, you could do it on a payment plan, or like a lot of people didn't get, like a lot of $10 shares, you know, like when it was an idea, we didn't get a lot of $10 shares, you know what I mean? Like, I could do it anytime, right? You know what I mean? But like, as they started seeing, you know, we're breaking ground, and, oh, this thing's actually going to happen, then more $10 shares came in, and then, you don't got to have a membership you don't have to have a share to shop there, but we got more $10 shares when that happened. And right now, we're probably about like, I can't remember the split right now, of like how many $10 shares versus $100 shares. Can't remember the split. Yep.
Based off that, before you actually broke ground,
Mhm.
were you actually getting people to become a member, or was that after like the
Yeah,
bylaws?
yeah. We started getting members before the bylaws, if I remember correctly. Definitely before we broke ground. You know, like once we knew that, because first of all, we wanted to make sure it was possible. You know what I mean? Like we wanted to make sure that we have a business pro forma that like we can actually make this work. And because of, you know, Dayton very hyper segregated, and some people never cross the river. So if you're on the west side, you don't go east. If you're on the east side, you don't go west. And so we wanted to make sure that we could do it. Like we were very conservative. So like there's parts of the east side that don't have a grocery store either. You know, and so and downtown didn't have a grocery store. And so we were open to them crossing the river and getting it, but we didn't want to like include them in our projections. So like we made sure that like if nobody crosses this river, we can make this work. Yeah, and then so everything else was gravy. And part of that was because if we included downtown, then it comes a question of like, is this being built for downtown? You know what I mean? So we wouldn't have built spot like nope. You know what I mean? We welcome people from downtown to come and shop, but you know we're not dependent upon them. You know, like we're gonna do this by ourselves, and we have a business plan to do it. So we wanted to show confidence that we could do it. And even then, it didn't like take off like overnight. Once we got our first 50,000 donation, that's when people were like, oh, this might actually happen. You know what I mean? Like all these steps. I remember I wanted my big check. I remember I was like, no, I'm standing for the big check. And, and so, but once we got that one, because they scrutinized us heavy. You know what I mean? Like, can this actually work? And this, that, and the other. And then like once we got that, then the hospital system started opening up. Like once we got that 50,000, we got, I think it was, our next one was 250 about like a month or so later. And then we got a 400 maybe within that same month. And then like it started rolling from there. You know, we got banks, you know what I mean, part of the Reinvestment Act, you know, that gave us money. And we also did kind of like Detroit is doing, we did new market tax credit. Are you guys familiar with that? It's super complicated, and you need a lawyer that's trained in new market tax credit, and they charge a lot. The whole process is set up to extract money, you know what I mean, on the front end. But we were able to get 1.5 from that.
I don't know if it's the last one, but you sustain, this is
Sustainergy?
Sustainergy.
Yeah.
I have been looking up the electric charging stations for like the electrical vehicles. So I know here, I was looking at some stuff, but they're giving out a lot of grants because it was like, don't quote me, but like by 2025, they need to have a certain amount.
So many stations, yeah.
I have been noticing, so I go to the market a lot, and I see one or two here, like it may be one or two of those charging stations for like, electrical cars.
Yeah.
And although it's free right now, when you typically charge, I thought that would be something that I think black folks should get into. But when you said this, only because there's a way to generate income without really waiting for somebody to do this. Because I was, even when you said that training recently, I see a lot of the grants is really set up to keep you needing them in a sense. So I just thought that was something that I think we should look into, but I just feel like that's a way to like really make money and get ahead of the curve in a way, because they giving money away right now for that. So
Yeah, it's interesting. So I know, I heard something yesterday that like they made a decision to make the connection for them uniform. I guess like before now, like, you know, certain cars need a certain, you know what I mean? So like they made like a universal application. And I know the government has a goal, it might be 225, I'm not sure of the date, to have so many. That could be a good business. I feel what you're saying, you know what I mean, to help do that supply chain.
right now, like university, that's jobs, that's money, that's
Yeah.
And I think that would be like perfection.
Yeah. I don't have expertise to know how to do it, but yeah, it makes sense to explore. You know, like I'm not sure how they position them and stuff, but yeah, it makes sense to look deeper into.
So do you offer your members any type of benefits?
Yeah, like that's still developing. Like, you know, sometimes, like, you know, there's sales where, you know, like if you have a member that you get, you know, a discount on this, and they get preferred access to the community room or TV kitchen. We want to develop that program out more. One of our biggest lessons was we didn't have the capacity when we first opened. You know, it was like, and now it's kind of interesting, but like we're actually hiring more to be able to build our capacity. So we were running kind of lean at first, but now it's like we need to build more. So like right now we got 20, I think we hired one more this week, so we might be at like 28, between 25 and 28 right now. And we're moving up to like, our goal is like 32, right? And so like we developed our meat department, like our meat department was like, we couldn't find a butcher. You know what I mean? So like one of the things that we're doing, like we have like matter of fact, I'm working on getting him an article in the paper because born and raised West Dayton, black butcher that wants to be the community butcher. He wants to reestablish the community butcher where like you know the butcher by name, he knows your family, he knows the type of meats you want cut, right? And so, and he's like taking it on his own, like you know, you always see him on these little YouTube videos. He back there like learning different things, and like he's taking these classes somewhere. Like, dude, like he on it, you know. And so we're trying to develop those departments. So like our deli went from really not having a butcher to then having a butcher. Now he's the butcher manager. We've hired 3 underneath him that are also learning how to do butcher. And so let's bring me to another thing that we're trying to do is we're opening it up for kids. Like schools can come and tour, and we want to start bringing them to the back end. So like right now, they're coming into the kitchen and they're making something to eat, and we're working on developing some type of like cooking show. But I want to bring them to the back end because a lot of kids want to be entrepreneurs. So I want them to see behind like how to be an entrepreneur is something that we're working on developing. So now we actually have. So talking about capacity, in the beginning, running the store is hard by itself, but then when you have a teaching kitchen, health clinic, and community room that you got to add to it, it's a lot. And so we had farmed that out at first to a nonprofit, but they didn't get our culture. And so now we're still working with them, but we're actually in the process of hiring a community manager that's going to be like our engagement arms, and also to organize those 3 rooms. So we have a health and wellness committee, which is like, that's going to be in charge of the planning, but then the community manager is going to help execute it. So it's like kind of like you learn as you go, and like how to build capacity, but like we realized we had to build up to actually increase our sales and to make a better experience. And I think the other thing I can say, and then we can close unless there's more questions, is instead of focusing on customer service, we're working on how do we create more belonging, right? Because to me, I see culture as a catalyst for community, and so like how is everybody in the organization creating this sense of belonging, right? And that sense of community. And in that process, you'll get customer service, and we had a story during one of the snowstorms, someone was snowed, like the car got trapped in some kind of way, and one of our cashiers, went out there and got him out, and then the person put him on Facebook, you know what I mean? So like the community started to see like, oh yeah, they really are about the community, you know what I mean? And so it takes time, because in areas where you've been over-promised and under-delivered, you know what I mean? It takes a while to break in and for people to really feel like this is ours. Like we're still learning ownership. Like, what does it mean to be ours? Like, what does it mean to activate this space? What does it mean to like what do you want to see? You know what I mean? Because we can co-create opportunity together. Like, I see opportunity as being this thing out there, you know, or structural even, right? You know, talking opportunity maps. But now I realize opportunity is how you bring gifts together. Like, we co-create opportunity by bringing our gifts to the center of the circle. And so, like, how are we creating that space for staff, board, and the community to put their gifts in the center? And in that, we're creating opportunity. Any other questions?
I'm just so grateful.
Huh?
I said, I'm just so grateful.
Oh, likewise. Likewise.
So grateful.
Yeah, y'all doing amazing work.
I'm telling you, as a food sushi organizer, Black Deal Institute in Cherry Hill.
And I appreciate y'all because y'all did the farming first. You know what I mean? Like I like your order. You know, I was telling somebody last night about y'all, and I was like, yeah, I appreciate how like they built this thing up. You know? Yeah, question?
How many people started with you when you say we?
Okay. The initial group was probably about 20 on the steering committee. Yeah. It was big because we had, so one of the things that we did, which, you know, I can just tell my story, you know what I mean? Like doesn't mean it's going to work everywhere, this, that, and other. But we didn't want the thing to be growing and then when we hit like obstacles, then having to build relationships. And so like once we had like the core part of the community together, then we brought in like one of the planners from Dayton, I mean from like the city, you know what I mean? Like we brought in key people at that table that like could help us navigate these systems along the way. So yeah, the group was little. 20 is a large group, you know what I mean? But along the way, we were able to hit different people. Like if we needed the governor, if we needed the Senate, you know what I mean? Like we had the team to be able to hit anybody we needed to, but we centered it around unapologetic Black leadership, right?
How many people on the board now?
The board is 9.
9.
Yeah, so once we incorporated, that's when we had to create a board. So I actually hopped off of Co-op Dayton's board to be the, so I didn't mention that, I'm sorry. I'm the president for the market, and then I'm the executive director for Co-op Dayton. So I came off of the board, came over to Gem City Market. Because I was a community organizer, it was like, you know, I ain't perfect, but community knows me, so I was like, we wanted to have someone that people at least know, you know. And then I transitioned to being a co-executive director at Co-op Dayton to help build these other co-ops as well. Any other thoughts?
You don't need
No, just a question about the structure again, about the co-op and ownership structure or the leadership structure.
Yeah.
How does it look from a high level? How does that look? The leadership and ownership structure of the co-op.
Can you say that last part?
How does the leadership and the leadership structure look for the co-op?
Okay, so we have it's nine person board, then general manager, and then from the general manager we got 6 managers. We got produce manager, floor manager, front end manager, deli manager, meat manager. That might be it. Cashier manager.
Those managers are basically the worker on co-op level. That way it starts at as far as manager level too.
Everybody in the store can be a worker owner. So the interesting thing, so right now, workers aren't on the board, but in a couple months, they will be. Like there'll be 2 the first year, 3 the second year, because we're going to stagger them out. And so then, they'll be on the board advocating for worker positions, right? And then actually kind of the general manager's boss, right? When you're in that board seat. And the other thing I forgot to mention is that the share of the profits. So, we're not expected to be profitable until year 4. But we centered it on, the board is heavy worker owner. And that was the debate. Like, some people on our board did not want that. They're like why is the workers have more stake than the members? But we wanted to make sure that, the reason why you have worker ownership is like, you're going to work harder for something that's yours. You know what I mean? Like, you're gonna take care of it more when it's yours. You know what I mean? And so they'll, like, whatever profit is made, 70% goes into the control of the worker owners. So like they have the lion's share of the equity. 'Cause we're not in a business to make money. You know what I mean? Like, we want to be open for the community. We need money to sustain and to grow, right? But we want to build high quality jobs. And we actually, I forgot to mention that too. We pay more than Kroger's does.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, with the profit share or whatever it is,
What do you say?
with the share.
No, before that. Like even like right now, like, Kroger's, like we average, I think our average is about 15, but there's people making more than 15. And like Kroger's is like 12, 13, something like that. So we pay more. And like the real struggle for those that are opening up, especially if you open up in areas that are undeveloped, is how do you meet all these needs? Like it's the mission versus margin conversation, right? And so it's like, if you go too much in the mission, you ain't gonna get margin, right? If you go too much in the margin, that's Kroger's, you know what I mean? like you're not gonna get mission, right? And so, being able to create high quality jobs that pay real money and also keep prices low, that is a real challenge. Like, I ain't going front. Like when we opened the store, we bought this thing, it took us 6 years to open. And when we opened the store, I'm like, whew, glad we did that, you know what I mean? Like, I'm thinking it's going to be, a little learning process. Boy, like, we work harder now to store open than it took to get open. Matter of fact, like I'm working on my PhD, I switched my PhD subject because I realized I ain't gonna be able to get this thing ever done if I don't center this around what I'm already doing already. You know what I mean? Was it probably I should have in the beginning that way, but so yeah, it was it's a lot of work, but it's rewarding. And the biggest thing is like just the sense of community and the sense of people believing and the sense of hope. That like when a community does something together, that's like huge. I say that humbly, but like they do something big together. Now it's like, okay, what are we gonna do next? So we have a land trust, you know what I mean? Like we built stuff out from there, you know what I mean? So the community believing that we have the power to determine the future, our shared future, And so when you get that going, nothing can stop you,
How much in legal fees, what's the percentage of legal fees that you put out, and that would include traditional legal fees and subsidiary or ancillary stuff that may come up? What do you average out of your budget for that with the co-op? And then, I'm not so much interested in the property, but the co-op.
Good question. One of our, I would say, like special sauce is early on we teamed up with it's called ABLE, which is kind of like it's like basic legal equity. So like it's a group of lawyers that are like community lawyers that help out with cases that are they don't do like criminal, but they help out with like cases of like advocating for housing and if you getting evicted, right? But we walked early with them, and that was one of our key things. So like we literally sat in the room and was like, this is what we want to build, and then the lawyer was like, okay, this is the kind of structure you need to be able to do that. And so like we didn't pay anything for that, right? So like they raised funds to support developing the market. Now the new market tax credit, I can't tell you how much it was, and like they even gave us a reduced price, but it's a lot of money. And like you can't, and that's what I was saying, like you can't do this without like a specialized lawyer, and like it's a lot of money. So like, you know, it's very complicated process, and it costs a lot of money to get done, but you get a lot from it. So it's a plus and minus. I don't know if we would do it again, all said and done as it is. I mean, you might be stuck having to do it, but like we definitely would think about it twice if we had to do it, because it is a real complicated process. And they made it that way on purpose. And like they make it complicated that you have to hire all these other people to do it. Like they create jobs for people by like like making the process so complicated. It doesn't have to be that complicated, you know. Any other questions? Cool, thank you. And sorry for the beginning. I know it was crazy. Thank you. And then I'll give the PowerPoints to Ron so that others can see them. Yeah, okay.
And how would I get it?
Yeah, I'll put it on this right now. Where are you from?
Baltimore.
Okay, cool. Oh, I was gonna give you, let's see. Well, you know, I'll email you and then you can get it. I'll put more information on that. Okay. Yeah.
So I left there in 2019.
Mm-hmm.
I was there as a worker
Okay.
for 23 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but it's a very much valuable. And I am trying to hope to develop a community outlet on that. So there's two communities.
Mhm.
One is UK, Clariton. Clariton is a environmental justice community. So listening to your perspective of how you did it was one of the things. So I probably will be reaching out.
Yeah, please do. Yeah. We're always willing to help whoever.
You did it like you did it.
And have you connected with Dr. Dev? Are you connected with, so she's co-executive director for National Black Productive Alliance.
Okay.
And that's where, like, you know, there's a space for all black co-op people to come and talk. Dr. Jazz here with the, she has a gray shirt on. Yeah. That gray or is that black? Yeah. So yeah, I would connect with her and get on that too, because we have a meeting once a month focused on black co-ops, specifically food co-ops.
Yes.
So yeah, so you know, to get you more network, and then like you with SEI. Okay, so the guy that was here, he is the executive director for SEI. It's like I would, if you send me an email, I'll connect you with Jacqueline. So Jacqueline helps they'll help you at whatever phase, if you're phase 1, if you're phase 2, like they have like different phases, like those planners and fees, and then like they'll help walk, like help you build capacity, and they'll connect you with other co-ops that are in your phase, like all phase 1 people, or you know, talking through phase 2, talking about it. You know what I mean? So like different ways to help build capacity, and like you know have thought partners, and all that.
Okay, awesome, yes. Good stuff, thank you.
And what's next? Jermaine.
Jermaine with the G.
Amaha.
Nice to meet you too. So, is your information in the,
Yeah, I don't know if they actually put our contact information or not. Let's look.
yeah, so they those here.
You know what? I do not have glasses, but like I need to.
You said it several times.
Yeah, I can see nothing on it. Yeah, I was like, whoa. Yeah, I can put it on, but man, yeah, I'm definitely there.
How long have y'all been working on it?
So it's like a big-
He said 6 years. I think it's 12 years.
Oh, yeah, we do. Okay. Oh, you're in Vegas? Okay. Remember that movement to speed of trust, right? And so, like, you know, what I know, like, from what I've seen, you can't, like, you know, we could say, you know, in the movie, you know, you build it, they'll come, and that doesn't always work. So if you're not walking with the people, then, like, you know, they're going to feel you just something for them instead of with them, and then they're going to be disengaged, right? So, like, how you build that co-creation is right. Yeah.
So that's impacted development because now they're saying, oh, we can't build a restaurant or this or started the churches to stay on land, so they are the traditional census state. They own land, they have historical community, and political base. And they got members who got money. So every politician, every politician in town belongs to one of these churches. In this area, they don't live in the neighborhood, because they belong to the church, not the neighborhood. So it's like, you have assets, tangible pieces of land, real population, especially the money from the government. And politicians, right, so leverage your assets and get work. And if you other things, share with her, or go elsewhere with someone else, do that. You encourage it. Also living, healthy mindset. If you see those land, they build churches, we go to the source. The impact will be maternal child health. Now, I want everybody, usually midwives, but that's the midwives and
Yeah, I was wondering, are they legal? Because, you know, some places they can't get Medicare.
midwives are not. So the midwives are saying, well, they're not qualified, they're not, don't have their outcomes, more importantly, the patient is choosing. So let them choose where their compliment is. And of course, the OBGYN is like, kick them off. None of them lose, nobody else. But like everywhere else, you have different outcomes for diagnosis. Health clinics here have a lot of is a body apart and close. That's the close part. So there's a 20 acres in that park. And that's still the cooperative representatives going and virtual park. On that side, another 2.5 days. We hadn't considered something like government there. The city owns land like this. Here is the West Side School. So first and grade school, we own all of the school. Now we're doing the test kitchen, blah, 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 the other things around the school. So basically, we'll have this triangle of investment because the city owns the land and everything. So we got a lot of things to do. But there's also this aspect of
I got your first message, and I responded, and then I woke up and I saw that I was still on the message.
You call help, I'm good. Right. Oh my God, that was history. Yeah. So I didn't mention that. So like, so we use the ramp for the build out and we use oven and all that kind of stuff. And then we did the membership was for operations. So yeah, so you can do your membership just for your operations. We had a faith-based commitment, so like having find a way. I want to say it was like TC, they're looking right now for like, kind of, you said, they have like 40 churches that are trying to, like, I guess they kind of work together in some kind of way, and they're trying to figure out how to leverage their capacity to open up the store, so, you know. We're willing to help anyway, and that's why we really good at because I feel like if we had like I was with our own co-op or whatever, we had our own entity, we had technical, you know what I mean, that were like black and like we had our own methods and marketplace and all that. I mean like.
change, it's good. And they hit me all at once, so they hit that.
I'm doing practice and like, whatever I'm trying to create, I
Huh?
The side slide shown?
No.
Hold on, when you want to go to the next one, then you press.
Okay, press down.
So,
Yeah.
and then you can also see the next one. I know sometimes I need to see the next
Okay.
one.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Well, good afternoon, everybody. Continue your eating. I'm going to just talk to you while you're eating. We're at the final day, and we have closeout of the conference. And so there's been a lot of questions in terms of what are the next steps, and so I'll share that with you as well in terms of next steps moving this agenda forward. So I do want to talk and leave you with the thought of what I call the spirit, mind, and body of a community. And as you travel back to your communities, I would hope that you take this thought with you. So I'll talk about the threefold nature of community: spirit, mind, and body. And first, I just want to thank all of you for attending this conference and supporting the work. I didn't know what to expect, but I did know that I needed to put it out there for people to respond to. And so you responded in an overwhelming fashion in terms of supporting this conference and the agenda for Black cooperatives here in the U.S., as well as globally. So again, I want to thank you all. Thank the presenters who presented during these 3 days. They did a wonderful job of sharing information and inciting you to look further in terms of the work. So what is your ultimate vision of Black communities? Well, I think it's to bring wholeness to complete agreement through alignment of individual and collective thoughts. And we've been hearing a lot around collective thoughts this last 3 days, conscious thoughts. And so, again, my ultimate vision of Black communities is to bring wholeness and complete agreement through the alignment of individual and collective thoughts. And so we know that working on our individual and collective thought is a process. It is a process. And so we take what we can use, and what we can't use, we leave it where it is. All right? So, the threefold nature of community. And I want you to understand that no matter where you're working at in the community, there is a spirit, mind, and body that's operating. There's a spirit, mind, and body that's operating that builds out community. So the spiritual nature of community is that community is a spiritual environments expressed through physical form, governed by innate spiritual laws, experiences, and practices. The question is, how can spirit be cultivated in your community? And that's something that you have to take back with you in terms of looking at how you're going to cultivate this spirit in your community. And so I would say, as it says here, let your spirit show, be open and respectful and to new ideas and new ways of thinking. Use your power to discernment, to evaluate. Yeah. So those are ways you can cultivate spirit in your community. And you're going to have to work with individuals of like minds and unlike minds, because it's all about being on a spiritual journey. And so if you're going to look at evaluating the spirit in your community, then question how you're going to cultivate that spirit in your community. It's a big question to ask. The conscious mind of community. So we talk about spirit, and then in spirit we have to talk about mind consciousness, which is symbolized by the intellect, the thoughts and knowledge that we all are able to comprise, which takes into account a community's collective experience and affairs. And so as you work through the spirit manifestation in your community, then you have to align that with mind action, with other positive and negative aspects that shape the innovative creativity of Black communities. And so it challenges you to really look deep within your thoughts and the thoughts of others. Because again, everything may not be in alignment with what you think, but how do you bring alignment to the collective mind of community? So again, there's the first phase is spirit, the second phase is mind, action, and the third is the physical body of community. And so when you have mind action operating in spirit, then you come up with all the ideas of programs and projects that you see as creating the physical body of the community. So you're moving from developing the spiritual to discerning yourself with the mind action, and then thirdly is taking the mind and the spirit and developing the body, which is the programs. And so that becomes that to which you put your consciousness into. And it's a way of developing the collective spirit with the mind that manifests the body, which is your programs and your activities. Why are the three phases important? Because spiritually, we have to come together, at least in understanding that we are on a spiritual journey in our communities. And then we want to explore mind and thoughts of our communities. Because we have different elements of thought. And so how do we sort of bring that into one consciousness around how we do what we do? And so that's going to be a process. That is going to be a process along with building the spiritual connectivity in your community. It's going to be a process. Don't expect it to happen overnight because it won't. Put it into your thinking that you're always going to explore the spirit of the community, that you're going to look at elevating the mindset in the community. And then once you have gained those two elements, the spirit and mind, then that's going to lead you to developing programs and projects, whether it's cooperative businesses, whether it's affordable housing, whether it's healthcare. You'll be able to really focus on what is needed in terms of the body in your community, because you've already explored the spiritual and you explored the mind. And so I say these three elements in the sense of the trilogy, that they exist. So when you go back to your community, think on these three elements: how you developing the spiritual connectivity in your community, how you ferment that with the mind and thoughts of the community, and thirdly, how to use spirit and mind to cultivate the projects and programs that you will see needing. Because I would say to you, without the spiritual and without the mind, and you go straight to the body, that you're missing the really important connectivity that helps build it. And that's why so many projects fail and so many programs fail, because they fail to look at the spiritual and the mind, and then letting that drive projects. So yeah. So I certainly have used these three mindsets, three practices to cultivate even this conference, because I wanted to build spirit into this conference. And then I wanted to build in the mindset of consciousness around how you are approaching it, but what are you going to take away from it? And lastly, it's really about using those two, mind and spirit, to build programs. And the thirdly is what we're going to work on as time goes on in terms of building programs. Okay. What's next for the National Black Cooperative Agenda movement? And I just want to share with you, and we've had some preliminary discussions on next steps. And so you all should have gotten a link for your survey, and if not, you will be getting a QSR code for the survey. And so I ask that you respond back to the survey, because that's going to give us a sense of your thoughts in terms of how you see this work moving forward. So that's going to be the first thing, responding to the survey. The second thing is that in June, we're going to convene a meeting of all of you that registered and signed up to participate in the furthering of the movement. We'll be sending you a link for a Zoom call. And so we realize that some of you may have other commitments on your table, but we'll engage the call to move forward on discussing the survey and the data that came back from the survey, discussing future strategies for future activities, developing committees, and scheduling of the future meetings. And so what we hope to do is to use the time between June and September in terms of building out the spiritual and mindsets around this conference and where we see it going. And so after these meetings from June until September, we hope to convene for a physical meeting, bringing the group together for a physical meeting, to further discuss what is needed and filter out the ideas and thoughts that came by way of the survey and other meetings. And so we'll be reporting back sometime in the late part of November to the wider group in terms of where we're going, where we see the work going with this conference and the movement. Of course, some have asked about the planning of another conference of this nature, and so that will be decided from the group, because it takes a lot of work to do these conferences on an annual basis. So we'll explore some thoughts around maybe biannually and what goes on between the conference, because I contend that the work has to go on, and we have to really build out the work. And so, so this conference was just a teaser to a much larger agenda. And I've said that throughout the conference. This conference is just a teaser to a much larger, broader agenda around the movement to create a space for Black cooperatives. And so in doing that, creating the space, and the hope is that as we convene these meetings that we'll develop committees around funding, where we'll go out and look at funding sources, and those who support this work. We'll look at building out platforms in your cities where you're coming from, so that we can grow locally and be able to build nationally and globally. But first thing is to grow this work locally. So we'll be reaching out to those of you in cities around the country who participated and exploring whether or not we can grow this work in your communities. I think it's doable, it's practical, and it's needed. Speaking to this ecosystem of Black cooperatives, we don't even know how many Black cooperatives exist. We don't even know. And so that's a part of the work that we have to do, a part of the knowing that we have to acquire in terms of mind. We have to develop, the apparatus to collect data on who's out there in the ecosystem. What types of cooperatives are operating? Black cooperatives we don't have that knowledge. There's so much knowledge that we don't have. And so if we're going to build out this ecosystem for Black cooperatives, there's knowledge that we have to obtain and collect and control. And I use the word control because I was asked by a white group to give the email addresses out to all the Black cooperatives that were attended, and that was not my platform. And so I let them know, no. When we have come together and we've decided on how we want to proceed forward, then maybe we'll provide that data. But until then, we have to use our resources to really build out the work that we need to do. Yeah, we really need to do that. So I've just mentioned, the things that we don't have, but let me just circumvent around what we do have. We have a willingness here of people who are committed to building out the Black cooperative space for Black cooperatives. Yeah. And that is monumental. Asada, I'm glad you're here. I mentioned to them about the survey.
That's going to be coming from Asada at sankofaresearchinstitute.org. And I will send it to you as many times as necessary. So if you get it multiple times, just know we're just trying to give everybody an opportunity to complete it.
Yeah.
And it was very important. It's gonna help us really work on building this network, creating a directory of where Black cooperation is happening. You'll also get a chance to help inform the agenda, right? Because a lot of things that happened at this conference was based on what we said in the previous survey for those who put in the conference in September 2021. So again, our job is to respond to the needs of this group, and that survey allows us to do that. And it's also going to be an invitation to your continued participation. We have to plan another conference, if so be it, right? We have to have sessions, you have great offerings, right? And then there were a lot of mornings, a lot of celebrations around this conference, right? And as I told the young brother, that's why we need you to be on the planning team to make sure we don't have those blind spots.
Yeah.
Right? We need many hands to help do this work. I'm sorry, Brother Rodriguez.
No. Thank you. Because all that's important. You know, the collecting of the data that I said before is important. We need to know. We need to know so we can plan accordingly. And that's what data allows you to do. That's what data allows you to do.
And that data will be open source. So we're going to create the data and make it accessible to people to utilize it in the ways that are necessary and needed, right? Because we want you to have access to that data. And I'll just say this to Ron, you know, we had a call with J.P. Morgan just talking about their commitment. There were some sisters who worked at the foundation. And one of them followed up with me and said, I appreciate your value on data, right? Because in our meetings, in our conversation, they're using data on you all the time. Mm-hmm. That's what she said, if you can control your own narrative, then you're in a position of strength with J.P. Morgan moving forward.
Yeah.
So that was very affirming, at least.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So again, we want to collect this data through the survey. So as Asada makes it available to you, take the time out to respond back because it's really going to be critical to access that data. Secondly, we are going to convene some meetings for those who signed up on the sign-up sheets yesterday. You'll be contacted, and I'll send another email out to everyone who registered for the conference because we might have not gotten everybody input in terms of who wanted to participate in the planning. And so we envision these planning sessions to take place by Zoom between June and September. And in the interim of that June to September window, we'll be working on scheduling a physical meeting in some city, and whoever, I'm open to whoever wants to host it, but we'll convene in some city to collectively sit down and do the work of analyzing and deciphering all that we bring into the space between that September and June and September meeting. And so I'm looking forward to working with you in deciphering out the next steps. I think that it was a great first step, this conference, but it's not the last step along the journey. And so if we're committed to the process, then the process will certainly unfold. All right. So does anyone have any comments or you want to share your input about what you've experienced these last 3 days? Go ahead, Hawk. Go ahead. Stand up.
I just want to say that the experience the last 3 days, I've spoken to Ron and a few different situations about how pleased I've been with the space, but the real experience has been the energy. You know what I mean? Is not even having had connection that's drawn you to that individual, and you're having this conversation about what we can do tomorrow to work together. You know what I mean? So it's being able to connect and remove those barriers of talking about the access on a business level to technical assistance, to networks, you know, being able to have those conversations of how to connect each other to like capital and stuff like that. So but the energy is those connections, that trust that led up to those conversations. So I'm just happy with the energy that I felt in the room and from individuals over the past 3 days. Sorry we gonna win it, but I'm kind of excited about it. You know, we sat over here talking, I'm sharing blueprints of, like, man, that's somewhere on the board, like, we're getting affirmation and confirmation over here, you know?
All right. All right. Anyone else want to share some thoughts?
I didn't mean to drop the mic and shut.
Go ahead, stand up.
Just the last piece that you said, because I do some research at hockey, and I was just saying to my brother that somebody else, when you mentioned about nobody knowing about the black cooperatives, I was saying somebody knew it. It's just not us, because what I've learned at hockey is they definitely getting data off of black folk. We just don't necessarily have access to it. So the fact that that's important, that's something that we're bringing, is really, really, really important, because research is not this big old thing that's outside of itself. Research is really like, if you say, how long do it take me to get to work on Monday? Or, you know, what kind of products I use in my hair. You know, you may try different things, you know, black women, we try different things. You know, but that's research. But really having the language, having the space, and just categorizing it in a way that you can extract from it, and it's your own process. That's narrative, that's storytelling, that's just build the legacy that we talked about throughout the whole conference. That's energy, that's strategy. It just brings everything together, and that's really how important it is.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And we're going to collect this data, and we'll be able to analyze it and give it back to you in terms of your analyzation as well. So Asada is going to make that available to everyone.
And my coworkers.
Yeah, and her coworkers. Asada and her coworkers, yeah, they'll make it available. All right. Go ahead, stand up.
I just wanted to make sure everyone is aware of a resource that Black Socialists of America have, what's called a dual power map. That is a map of kind of the states with different co-ops and collectives and all of that. So if you go to Black Socialists of America, I don't know their exact website, but you can find them on Instagram. You can find them on, you know, places, and it's called dual power map.
I'll get that from you. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Any more comments? All right. Okay. Go ahead.
I just wanted to say that, you know, this space has been very healing, encouraging, enlightening, and, you know, in the formal sessions and the informal sessions, and the after sessions of the informal sessions, you know, I've just gotten a chance to share energy with so many people, and what it's saying to me is that, one, I'm not alone, I have family everywhere, and two, that we are not under-resourced, we just don't always appreciate and recognize our own value. And so when we look amongst each other, the resources, the tools that we need to liberate ourselves from all of fear, we just have to trust each other.
Yes. Yeah. And we've had a lot of trust-building opportunities afforded to us. Lakeisha cheering up, spearing up the Sankofa Circle on Thursday morning was a powerful experience. One I'm taking with me as I travel back home. because I thought it really opened up for me the importance of having just these intentional conversations. You know, go ahead. Do you want to say something?
Is when we in these spaces too, I think some black folk have issues with like therapy, but I think sometimes when you're in these spaces and these intentional conversations happen, sometimes you can be triggered, and if you don't have the EI or emotional IQ in that space, it takes conversations places that sometimes the facilitators can't handle. So I think that it would be important to have some level of reflection and debriefing somewhere, like if you had some type of therapist or even as an art session or something, because I think sometimes what I've learned on my spiritual and therapy journey is if you're not self-aware, you don't even realize how you show up. And even though we come here and we're like, oh yeah, black this and black that, everybody's black experience is different.
Yes.
And we typically just speak through our own lens, which was great about the Sankofa Circle. You say I, but if you haven't learned that stuff, it'll spill out. And it has spilled out in one of the sessions, and I think that it was a great thing, right? But we gotta really have that support and even that level of grace to say, this right here may be too much for you, and I want to be able to talk to somebody that actually support me. So I just think that that is something that we really need to consider, just how trauma show up. And even sometimes it can be a bit toxic, not intentional.
Yeah.
So I just think we should definitely have somebody here. I don't know what that would look like. Just people can kind of go to maybe offline or something like that.
And I just want to say, those are the type of comments that we want you to put in the survey. There's a section there that's just quantitative, right? And those are the kind of ways and things that we can consider as if we make the decision to plan the next conference, that those are the ways we can improve, right? And we need that feedback, right? Because I know there are, black psychologists of, association, often volunteer, often be hired to come and hold spaces like that. So those are things that we can work on for the next.
All right. Go ahead, Roosevelt.
I just wanted to say one thing before I make an exit. This was a great conference. I've actually been president of 3 of them. I think, one thing I just want to give you credit for the great work that you've done in all the conferences. People that stand up and stood up, and we've done that on a consistent basis. I just want to make sure that that's clear. The other thing is that every time we've done these things, it's been taking us to another level of consciousness, another level of doing. And so I think one of the things that I'm going to do, I'm going to make a commitment personally to be involved and to support whatever it is that this organization is doing and to grow with it as well. The other thing is that I think that a lot of stuff is organic, and we have to understand that. So sometimes we miss things, but it's not intentional, but it's organic, so we can go back and redo it again. But one of the things that took place was, I think when we did this COFA thing, we had white folks on the outside. I think the good thing would have been to have them look at that for like 20 minutes and go into another room and look at how they could be allies. So they got a chance to experience and listen and hear your pain and feel it. Because if they get into another room to do their thing, determine how they can be allies, maybe that's something we can consider next time when we do that. Then we can come together again and listen in a cohesive way in terms of moving forward, in terms of what allies look like. But anyway, that's just a suggestion. It's been a great opportunity. The last thing is the youth. The youth are the spark of revolution. Always have been and always will be. And you guys are doing such a great job. It's really good to see you doing stuff that you've done. I've been doing stuff for a lot of years. Just to see you guys moving and thinking and acting. It doesn't matter if I agree with everything you do, but to know that something is going on, something positive and good. So when people talk about us, we know that we're doing. All that stuff you get on the news, we're doing. We are real. And we got to share this information with other people so they know that you're doing something. You're just not out here talking. And this is the most powerful thing in the world, is that we are doers.
Yes.
Survivors.
Yes.
Beyond survivors to transcend. So it ain't about overcoming, it's about winning.
Yes.
Loving and caring and being who we are. Peace and blessings, everyone.
Peace and blessings. Yes, go ahead.
I just want to say before I go, I came for learning experience and to continue a legacy with my family and get information. And I didn't know anything about a co-op, but I learned a lot today. I would love to continue to support, learn more, engage. And I think the takeaway from this for everyone, if at least every single person reaches out to 3 more people that don't know, because me at my age and I didn't know. If you reach out to someone that doesn't know, regardless of what they look like, you don't know if someone's interested. So reach out to someone, bring more people in. Okay, and love you all. Peace and blessings.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. You know, love is a galvanizer. Do you know that? Love is the only thing that brings people together. Love. And so I'm loving this space that we've cultivated. Not I, but we have cultivated. And I'm looking forward to really, after maybe a few days of respite, I take my healing. But after that, I'll be back on the saddle, and you'll be getting my emails, and I'll be reaching out to you to encourage you to come back in into the circle. Ahmad.
It's been a blessing to be here, and I'm sorry I came late. I had some rough sleep before I got here. But yeah, I'm going to speak on that love too, right? Because I think, we're in the process of defining Black love and what it looks like for ourselves, right? And we can feel it, and we know that really cooperation is Black love, right? Because it takes love to cooperate. So it's like how we continue to move, build these deeper relationships amongst each other. And when I was here last night, I was meeting with people from different topics, and it had me really think about what are the core competencies that are in the room and rising up, and how to connect people by the core competencies, right? That we should continue to build up infrastructure. I know a couple people that are talking about, web platform development and different things, right? So how to getting some I don't know if specialization per se, but how we can build up these core competencies and then spread that out that way as well. So I'm thank you to be here, and I'll call my team and they we gotta bring more here next time. So yeah,
Well, thank you. Oh. All right.
So I just want to say thank you, Ron, the rest of the folks who were on the planning committee, Keisha, Mabry, Sada, Julian, Shelley, that this was, I was hungry for this. I think all of us have been hungry for this. We've been locked up for the past 2 years, just in our homes, in a small community. So just having the time to come together physically, even in the midst of a pandemic, and I forgot what it was like to be at a conference. And what I really deeply appreciated most was the late night ciphers in the lobby. People are just out, hanging out and talking. Folks are at a bar. I don't know where everybody is. I spent a lot of time just right up here in the front with a lot of other people gathering. And it was just beautiful. It was beautiful to be a part of that, to the point where I can see just in the space that it's contagious. I mean, this brother, I don't know your name, brother. What's your name? Kenny. Kenny has been Kenny is not just a photographer. Kenny has been in the mix. I've seen you all up in here. Giving advice on, this is happening over here. And really, not just being on the sidelines, but being in it. And that just comes from seeing a beautiful thing happening. There's a brother, the staff that have worked here.
Yeah.
After
saw yesterday, and outside of Lakeisha and Asada, the Sankofa Circle, like the door was cracked open. He was standing on the side, like for a while, looking in. It's like, you know, this is powerful. And I was walking outside, and both of us were looking inside. And we're trying to get a peek in. And he came up to me this morning after the morning session, and he came up and was sharing, you know, he's like, you know, jumping in the planning process. It's like, hey, you know, I heard some feedback, some folks commenting as they were walking out, giving feedback. Is there a process that you got for getting that feedback, you know, for the next session? And I'm thinking to myself, this brother is like, he's not just a passive, you know, a passerby. He's like in it. He's in it. He didn't register. He works here. You know, but the fact that the conversations we're having here are impacting people who are around us. So we don't know who's being impacted by our words and our actions. But the fact that what we're doing is beautiful and coming from love.
Can you hold a second? Yeah, but no, I just want to just make, we're going to, before we get too far away, I want Kenny to take a group picture of us. Can we do that? All right. Where would you want to sit, Kenny? Okay. You want the chairs up here?
Yeah, some people, I need the group leaders to be on the stage.
Huh?
The group leaders, the last section, I want them on stage.
Oh, you want them up.
Everybody else,
Yeah. Just take the chairs off. Okay.
So here's the deal. I need everybody's attention. Here's the deal. If I'm back there and you can't see me, you need to shift. Okay? Because if you can't see me, I can't see you.
Wait. Come on into the picture. Come on, black folks. Come on.
Can we fill inside on this side? ain't tall, but no problem. Everybody see me?
Yes.
Now, maybe point to him and say, I need to lean forward a little bit. I need to hold this with you. Just move these chairs.
Take your time and take your
Speaking an affirmation for us.
Your picture.
I'm reminding you.
An affirmation. The young lady behind her. Good, right there, stay right there. Perfect. Here we go. Stay there.
Your phone pose ready.
Right.
Here we go. Gotcha.
All right, all right.
Hey, can we get one with the word screws right here?
Come over this way a little bit.
Well, you need your right arm out.
Right there.
Sorry, we did extra work, but y'all gonna love this shot.
Black love. Black love.
Well, folks, that's it. Travel safely going back home. All right? Everyone that has presented, and if you're still in the room, everyone has presented, can you come up to the front?